Okay, so Marriage Story is technically about a divorce. But calling it just a divorce movie is like calling the ocean some water. Because what this film actually captures, in a way that made me physically uncomfortable, is how two good people can slowly become strangers while still loving each other. And that's the part nobody warns you about. We talk about toxic relationships, red flags, deal breakers, but we don't talk enough about what happens when nobody's the villain, nobody cheated, nobody lied, and it still falls apart. So instead of reviewing this movie scene by scene, I want to talk about 5 brutal life lessons Marriage Story nails about relationships, communication, and what it actually takes to stay connected when life keeps pulling you in different directions. The first lesson is the hardest one. Love doesn't fix incompatibility. Charlie and Nicole love each other. That's not the problem. The problem is they want fundamentally different lives, and no amount of affection can bridge that gap. She wants LA. He needs New York. She wants to act in TV. He wants to do theater. She wants to feel seen. He wants to keep building his career. And for years, they just hoped it would work itself out. Spoiler, it didn't. And honestly, that hit me because we're taught that love conquers all. That if you care enough, try hard enough, compromise enough, it'll be fine. But sometimes, the math just doesn't math. I've seen this in real life, not just romantic relationships, but friendships too. Two people who genuinely care about each other, but one wants to settle down and the other wants to travel. One wants kids, the other doesn't. One thrives in the city, the other needs quiet. And they spend years trying to negotiate a middle ground that doesn't actually exist. That's not a failure of love. That's just life. The brutal truth is this: you can love someone deeply and still be wrong for each other. And pretending otherwise doesn't make you noble. It just makes the ending messier. Lesson 2. Resentment builds in silence. One of the most painful parts of this movie is watching how much Nicole has been quietly swallowing for years. She moved to New York for him. She put her career second. She supported his dreams while hers got smaller and smaller. And she never really said how much it hurt, until it was too late. That's the thing about resentment. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. You don't wake up one day and suddenly hate your partner. You wake up after 1,000 small moments where you bit your tongue, smiled through frustration, said, "It's fine," when it wasn't fine, and convinced yourself that bringing it up would just cause a fight. So you stay quiet, and the resentment grows. And one day you realize you've been keeping score for years, and the other person didn't even know there was a game. I've done this, not in a marriage, but in friendships, work situations, family dynamics, saying, "I'm good," when I'm not, letting things slide because I don't want to be difficult. And then months later, I'm angry about something the other person forgot happened. That's not fair to them, and it's definitely not fair to me. The hard truth? If you don't say it when it's small, you'll scream it when it's big, and by then, the damage is done. Lesson 3. Being right doesn't mean you're connecting. There's a scene in this movie where Charlie and Nicole are screaming at each other, and both of them are right. She's right that she sacrificed too much. He's right that he didn't force her. She's right that he didn't see her. He's right that he tried his best. And none of it matters, because they're not trying to understand each other anymore. They're just trying to win. That's what happens when communication breaks down. It stops being about connection and starts being about scorekeeping. Who sacrificed more? Who's more hurt? Who deserves more sympathy? And suddenly, you're in a courtroom even when you're just sitting at the kitchen table. I've been in arguments like that. Not romantic ones, but with friends, family, coworkers, where I'm so focused on proving my point that I forget the goal isn't to be right. The goal is to be heard and to hear. Because here's the thing. You can win every argument and still lose the relationship. The hard lesson? Sometimes you have to choose between being right and being close. And if you always choose being right, don't be surprised when you end up alone. Lesson 4 might sound specific to divorce, but it's actually universal. The moment you bring in outside forces to win, you've already lost. In the movie, Charlie and Nicole start out wanting an amicable split. No lawyers, no drama. Just two adults trying to do the right thing. But then the lawyers get involved, and suddenly, it's war. Every conversation becomes evidence. Every gesture becomes strategy. And two people who used to love each other are now being coached to destroy each other. And here's what got me. The lawyers aren't evil, they're just doing their job. But their job is to win, not to heal. And that changes everything. This happens outside of divorce too. The moment you involve HR in a workplace conflict, it stops being about resolution and starts being about liability. The moment you bring a third party into a friendship issue, it stops being about understanding and starts being about taking sides. I'm not saying you should never ask for help. Sometimes you need a mediator, a therapist, a neutral voice. But there's a difference between someone who helps you communicate and someone who helps you win. Because winning a battle while destroying the relationship, that's not a victory. That's just expensive loneliness. The last lesson is the one that stuck with me the most. You can't co-parent a relationship that's already dead. Charlie and Nicole have a kid, and they both love him. And they're both trying so hard to make it work for his sake. But the truth is, staying in a broken relationship doesn't protect your kid. It just teaches them that love looks like resentment, silence, and performing happiness. And that lesson applies way beyond parenting. How many of us stay in friendships that died years ago because we have history? How many of us stay in jobs we hate because we've invested so much time? How many of us keep trying to revive something that's already gone because walking away feels like failure? But here's the thing. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself, for the other person, for everyone involved, is to let it end. Not with cruelty, not with blame, just with honesty. Because dragging out the ending doesn't make it less painful. It just makes it longer. So yeah, Marriage Story is technically about a divorce. But really? It's about how hard it is to stay connected. How easy it is to drift apart. How love alone isn't always enough. And how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that something isn't working and let it go with grace. Which is brutal, but also kind of necessary. Because the alternative, staying in something that's already over just because you're scared of the ending, that's not love. That's just fear with better lighting. If this movie hit you the way it hit me, let me know. And if one of these lessons felt a little too close to home, well, you're not alone. That's kind of the point.